You're listening to The Jay Barker Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
All right, let's get the Ole Miss week rolling. And not today, but through the week, let's kind of put the South Florida Bulls game in a rearview mirror. But today we're going to talk about it, and so is Nick Saban. We are awaiting the appearance of Coach at the podium, and we will go to him immediately when his mic is hot. In the meantime, Lars, did you have a nice weekend?
I did. Had a really nice weekend. Big athletic weekend for my kids. And then, of course, all attention was turned to the Alabama game. And, Matt, to me, it was the most dispiriting game of the Nick Saban era, even more so than the loss to Louisiana Monroe 21-14 back on November 17th, 2007 in year one. Because in year one, we knew that there were going to be some growing pains. Nick Saban needed to reshape the roster, needed to get rid of some guys who hadn't bought in. There was a lot of optimism. There was always a good deal of effort. And the team that I saw, that everyone saw play on Saturday, what was the issue? Effort. It absolutely wasn't there. Alabama looked like a team whose spirit was broken. They didn't look interested in playing. And, they're going against literally one of the worst teams in college football.
Well, they didn't look like it.
Well, that has more to do with Alabama than South Florida.
Yeah.
And this team's got problems, big problems. And it's just this is pure speculation on my part, but I think that there are some issues internally that have fractured this team, and Nick Saban needs to do everything he can and summon all of the persuasive power he has to get this team back on the right track.
Well, they even pointed this out on national television. Sideline reporter said they're not together. Said there's no helmet slapping. There's no butts. There's no leader. She used the word, there's no leadership. Ooh. And I just read a little while ago that the team called a players-only meeting. You got to hope that maybe that bonds them together. But Nick Saban will take it from here.
So after watching the film, what I said after the game really kind of goes. We had a lot of players that really competed hard in this game, played hard, competed well. We didn't always execute the way we want to execute, and I think everybody can look to something that they can improve on, and that's certainly going to be, the focus, that we have this week. There's a responsibility that goes with that for the player, but also for the coaches, so that, we're doing things that players can do, so they can go on the field and play fast and know exactly what they're supposed to do and go out there and execute it. And I think that's, going to be important for all of us this week. So, when our guys get out there, they can play fast. Look, we're looking forward to, SEC opener. We've had 3 games to kind of evaluate our team in a lot of different areas. Ole Miss is a really, really good team. Lane has done a great job there with the program. This is one of the best offensive teams in the country in terms of things that they do, multiples that they have, the way their players are coached and how they execute. They're playing better on defense. So, this is a really, really good team. And, we're going to have to play, our best, and we need to improve to be able to do that. On 2 points, I think, from a quarterback standpoint, this is all I'm going to say about this. Jalen really showed the leadership that I was looking for, during the game in terms of supporting his teammates and doing the things he needed to do. He's had the opportunity to play, so as the other guys. Jalen played the best of all those guys, and so I think he's earned the opportunity to be the quarterback. On this other thing that I hear floating around out there, I'm sure you've seen the same reports that I've seen, is Kevin Steele is the defensive coordinator. He has all the defensive coordinator responsibilities. The only thing that we tried to improve on from an administrative standpoint was game day administration of getting the signals in quicker. All right, so that's the only thing that we worked on together as a staff. The whole staff made a contribution to it, and I think it was a lot better in this game than it was in the Texas game.
Start with Charlie.
Hey, Coach, just after getting a chance to watch the film, how would you assess the play of the offensive line?
Well, I don't think when you give up 5 sacks and I think that our players they ran a lot of blitzes, a lot of looks, nothing that we really, only one thing that they did that we'd not worked on. But I think the players were not communicating well and not on the same page, sometimes, and I think that created issues and problems. That's something that we want to build on.
Stay over here with Nick.
Tyler Booker mentioned that the players met yesterday, players-only meeting, and he said togetherness is a real point of emphasis for them. How would you assess the togetherness of this group?
Well, I've been pleased with it. I think this was, the first game where I saw some guys, a little frustrated. And I think the frustration came maybe because we weren't as focused as we needed to be, which is my responsibility. So players go out and make some mistakes and things don't go well and they get frustrated. And as a competitor, you never want to get frustrated. You always want to play the next play. But I think we've talked about how everybody needs to buy into doing the things they need to do to make their contribution to the team to play winning football. And I think as time goes on and the season goes on, everybody's role gets a little bit more clearly defined. Some guys may be disappointed in their role, but they have to buy into that if they want to make a contribution to the team in a positive way, whether it's on special teams or, being a player that gets an opportunity because somebody's down, whatever that might be.
Well, on the other side with Nick Alvarez.
You mentioned Jalen kind of met the moment in terms of being a leader on Saturday. Is that something you needed to see from him kind of going into the week and you wanted to see more of?
No, I made the comment, and that's the comment. He's played the best of the quarterbacks, and that's the way it's the way it is right now.
From Chase.
General question here, not related to the USF game, but when an offense goes with 7-man protection for the quarterback, how difficult is it to get somebody open when there's only 3 guys running routes?
Well, I think you have to have a combination of both. Obviously, a lot of play action passes are supposed to complement the running game, and you don't get 5 guys out in the pattern. So sometimes you want to secure the protection, and hopefully, the play action passes allow, some vertical routes down the field to be effective. We've hit some explosive plays on those kind of plays this year. 6-man protection, the back gets out late. So, when you get all guys out, you got 5 guys to block 5 guys. So that puts the most stress on the offensive line. So I think you got to have a combination of all 3 of those things to be an effective offensive team.
Up front with Kate.
Seems like Malachi Moore recovered from that minor injury and has played really well over the last few weeks. What have you seen from him, and what type of leader has he been in the defense?
Malachi's been the leader of that group. He's the best communicator. He makes a lot of checks, lots of calls, gets everybody on the same page. I think it helps the other players play with a lot of confidence, and he has played very, very well. Puts a lot into it, does everything that we ask of him in terms of effort, toughness, not making mental mistakes, doing things the way we'd like for him to do it. So I'm very pleased with the way he's playing.
The back with Ryan.
Coach Lane Kiffin, you guys know each other clearly well. I believe you talked about when Sark came, they've been taking notes on you for years. Have you been looking at what he does, and what can you say about the program Ole Miss the past few years he's been building?
No, I think they're outstanding. Obviously, they 4th in the country or something in total offense and scoring, 52 points a game and 526 yards. So this is Lane's an offensive guy, did a great job when he was here, and he's doing a great job there. And the players do a great job of executing, which is always a good sign of, a well-coached team. And I think he's done a fantastic job there.
Left Matt.
What do you think of how Roydell Williams played Saturday?
Roydell played a great second half. He had over 100 yards rushing in the second half, and we were very pleased. We've always had a lot of confidence in Roydell, so him and Jace both have been very productive so far this year.
Back to TV. Any other questions before guys?
Coach, with the outside noise being as loud as it's been, what is your perspective or feel on this team? Because despite what that outside noise might be, this team is sitting at 2-1, about to start SEC play and plenty to play for this season.
Look, I like the team. I got confidence in our team. I really do. We've had some tough stretches before, and players have bounced back, but I think everybody's got to make a commitment to doing that, and it's not easy. We got really tough competition coming up, but everybody's got to challenge themselves, I think, to be their best as a player, be their best as a team guy, be their best as a leader, and I've liked this group so far. I just think, our execution has got to get a little more consistent.
Finish up the road.
How much has Pete carried over what he did here to what he's doing at Ole Miss defensively?
There's some few things that are a little different, but quite a bit of it's the same, and I'm sure it has something to do with personnel. But I think they're playing better, and that makes them a better team. All right, thank you.
There you have it, Nick Saban's Monday press conference from noon till about 12:15. Let's take your phone calls, your reaction. Lars and I, along with Justin, will also react to what Nick said and then what happened Saturday afternoon/evening down in Tampa. As you listen to Big Noon Sports, you can go ahead and call in at 205-342-9904 as Big Noon Sports rolls on a sunny Monday.
What's Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
What a beautiful day today. Sunshine in full supply. The high 83. Clear and cool tonight. The low 59. And dry, pleasant weather continues tomorrow and Wednesday. The sky sunny both days. Highs between 83 and 86 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 82 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best sports talk in Alabama. This is Big Noon Sports.
Thank you, James. How about that? 82 degrees mid-September. I'm loving it. I don't think we're going to see another really big heat stroke again.
Oh, don't say that.
That's like 20 degrees lower than it was a month ago.
Yeah.
And can you ever feel it? And the humidity is down as well. But where are we going following Alabama's 17-3 win in Tampa over the Bulls? Got several places here. Saban started. He talked about quarterbacks. He said Jalen was his man. Going in, he's already on a Monday. I don't know that I anticipated that he would say that this early. Did you?
No, absolutely not. It's some big news right off the bat that Jalen Milroe has quote earned the right to be Alabama's starter, and to me this feels a little bit. The UCF game reminded me a little bit of the 2015 Ole Miss game where Nick Saban and the staff started Cooper Bateman over Jake Coker. They quickly realized that didn't work. They go back to Coker. Coker goes on to be the starter for the rest of the season. I think Jalen Milroe is going to be the starter the rest of the season unless he gets hurt.
Then why didn't they put him in?
Well, I think this was like...
I'm so baffled by this.
I think the South Florida game was really the one opportunity to see what you have in Simpson and Buckner. You want to get them out there, and I mean, practice is one thing. Real life game action is a different thing, and some players just aren't that great practice players, and they really perform when the lights are on. Tyler Buckner, holy cow,
Deer in the headlights. I was so stunned by that.
Yeah, so that experiment is definitely over. And Simpson had his moments, but he's not ready yet either.
He was late. I think he showed.
I would take Jalen Milroe in a New York Minute over that.
I know I'm going to pound this in, but that game wasn't over. I mean, it's a pick six away from being tied. It was not over until Alabama scored very, very late in that game. Is that the time you experiment with your quarterbacks?
Well, I think that was the plan going
Jalen's
into
the
it.
guy, then and he's going to be your starter, let him come in there and seal that game away. I know you guys think it was a test session, but I don't think on the road trailing by 7 points is the time to test out your backup quarterbacks.
Did you guys find it weird, the timing of the initial change when they brought in Ty Simpson? It was right after the turnover, and you would have thought maybe Tyler Buchner would have just handed the ball off 3 or 4 times. Instead, they were like, now's the time. Ty Simpson's in, Tyler Buchner's out.
I think Nick Saban had seen enough of Buchner to realize that this is not going to work.
Yep. He might have been late on that trigger. But I don't know.
I mean, was that the worst performance by a starting quarterback since Nick Saban's been head coach?
It was hard for me to be terribly critical because I was feeling for the guy.
Oh, I feel for the guy, too. I feel for the guy, too. And
I don't know.
And I thought he was going to be ready for the moment because he's played in some big games at Notre Dame.
They gave him the starting job. I mean, they thought he was ready.
Yeah.
The other criticism and discussion this week has been about the offensive line. And I think if I were going to have to really point a finger, and I'm kind of soft, I'm really, honestly, folks, I'm more of a cheerleader here. I don't like to be overly critical, but this is an issue and not one that we anticipated. These are the guys that were at the SEC Media Days saying, we're going to make you quit. Well, I've seen the exact opposite. What is going on with these plus 350s, these 5-stars? They are not getting it done, and Saban mentioned it again. 5 sacks? What is that, 9 sacks in 2 games? Something like that?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And this was supposed to be, wouldn't you say, Lars, the strength of the football team coming into the season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the offensive line garnered more preseason hype than any other position group on the team. And it seemed to be that it was legit because the line features 4- and 5-star players. And also the fact that most of the guys weigh in at over 360, at least before camp they did. It's like, wow, they're going to have the ability to really push people around. Well, you know what's happening? People are running around them.
Quickly.
The quickness isn't there, the cohesiveness, the communication. We thought that this was a unit capable of winning the Joe Moore Award, right, for the best offensive line, and this was going to be one of the better offensive lines that Alabama has had in years. But it's been really tough, against Texas. The Texas defensive line just dominated, and Jalen Milroe, he had to scramble just time and time again. And then, you move on to South Florida, a team that won 1 game last year, and a team that just really has no business even hanging with Alabama. But man, they just set up shop in the Alabama backfield consistently. Their DNs were consistently beating the tackles. And, you don't want to signal out one person, but the left tackle's it's a big problem with Alabama. And that's your most important position on the line. And so, giving up 5 sacks to South Florida.
They didn't look like the team that only won 1 game last year. And again, I'll point this out, and you've heard it before, you'll hear it again. Bama wears a big old target. And what's the biggest game so far for Middle Tennessee State University? Alabama. What's the biggest game for Texas? Alabama. What's the biggest game for South Florida? Alabama. What's the biggest game for Ole Miss coming up?
Alabama, but it's been that way for about a decade.
Yep.
More than a decade.
And normally when teams like South Florida give Alabama their best shot, they still come up 35 points short.
I know sitting in the press box, we were like, do we play Chattanooga this year? Chattanooga's got to be watching the USF game going, well, maybe And we're going to get, like we always do, we're going to get the best from every team we play.
We do.
Is there a guaranteed win? If Alabama plays the way they did on Saturday, is there a guaranteed win on the schedule?
Chattanooga.
I wouldn't be confident in saying Chattanooga.
You just played a team that was literally like the worst in college football last year. I never thought I'd see the day that Alabama is playing like Nebraska, but Alabama played like Nebraska on Saturday.
All right, let's go positive on here. I thought it was a different team in the second half, and it was not a different team in the first and second half when it came to playing defense. Kevin Steele had them playing, and they were stopping the run. They were stopping the pass. They forced a turnover. Occasionally, Brown would get loose on a scramble and make up significant yardage. But for the most part, I would give the defense an A. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd give the defense an A. I talked to Dallas Turner after the game, and he was, I wouldn't say ecstatic. He's a very, Stonewall kind of
you
guy.
You give up 3 points off a turnover. That was it.
Well, and then there should have been another turnover, but there was the penalty, right?
Yeah.
The interception that turned it back.
Okay, so set the scene for us after the game when you're seeing Saban, you're talking to different players. What was their body language like? I was surprised that Nick Saban just didn't go full on Nick Saban at the press conference afterward. He was actually complimentary of his guys, and he seemed pretty mellow. And that seemed to reveal to me, and again, this is just armchair psychoanalysis, that Nick Saban wasn't terribly surprised by what happened. Like he could have he saw it coming.
It was kind of shocking when he walked in and we were listening to his opening comments. Because, like you said, Laura, he didn't seem very. You would have thought anger or, ready to go and point out all of his error. He seemed like, this is what I thought was going to happen.
Aren't y'all about ready for him to pound his fist into the podium?
I think I am ready.
I think he's a little bit too subdued. It's time. Hey, Lars, go over there and ask him a question next week. It's about time for him to take a reporter out. Don't you think? And you're the guy. You're the man. You can handle it. Hey, take one for the team, Lars.
Yeah, okay. I'll get him fired up.
All right, let's take a phone call. Joseph has dialed in at 205-342-9904. Let's put Joseph on and see what he has to say about the Alabama Crimson Tide. Hey, Joseph.
How you doing, man?
Great.
I'll tell you this. I think Ty Simpson's our guy if you get off of the line, but if not, you have to go back to Jalen Milroe. Ty Simpson did some really, really good things, I think. He had a bullet pass to TJ Dupree. And Ty Simpson's the type of guy that the more experience he gets, the better he gets. So, I think with a little bit of experience, Ty Simpson will be Alabama's guy. But if that offensive line don't get no better, then you set him up for failure.
I agree. If the offensive line is playing at an elite level and you want to have a down the field passing attack, then Ty Simpson's your guy. But if your quarterback is running for his life every time he drops back to pass, then Jalen Milroe's got to be your guy because he gives you the best chance at winning. You look at on Saturday, Alabama threw for a whopping 107 yards, completed a whopping 43.5% of their passes against a defense that couldn't stop anybody last year.
But I think Ty Simpson's more of your physical, go under, or get behind the center type guy, and then do play action, kind of like an A.J. McCarron or Greg McElroy or Jay Cope type player. But Milroe is more like your Blake Sims, stuff like that.
I got to tell you, when Nick Saban came out of the Gators news conference just about 15, 20 minutes ago and said Milroe was his guy, I was a little dumbstruck because I thought that Simpson played really well in the second half, particularly in the fourth quarter. When Alabama needed to salt it away, he led the Tide to 2 consecutive touchdown drives. And I thought, okay, then they found their guy. They're looking around. They found their guy. They didn't play. They didn't play Milroe. So what's it coming down to? And then he goes to the podium today and it really surprised me that he made the announcement on its own right, but particularly that he made it Monday of this week. I would have thought he'd gone through some practice sessions, but no. That's his guy, Joseph, moving forward. So let's go with 4. Hey, thanks for your call, Joseph. Got a final comment? That would be a no. We'll talk more about Alabama. I got home in time to see like the last quarter of Colorado State. Wow. I mean, I don't like to tip my hat too often, but the Buffs came back and did what they had to do.
Colorado State blew that game. They had them.
Yeah, they really did, and I don't mind. I was pulling for the Rams big time.
Yeah, I was ready to shoot out. Like I wear my sunglasses at night. Music. Deion Sanders has a deal, a sunglasses deal with that company.
Oh, that's pretty smart on both their parts. But why you need to wear it at what, 11 p.m. Coastal time? I don't know. He's annoying. Did you watch the special on him with 60 Minutes? I've had enough.
My buddy John Wertheim, I worked with him for many, many years at Sports Illustrated. He did the interview, and I actually shot a text to John, and he said Deion was great.
Wow.
He's
all
Deion.
Depends on the circumstance.
He's Deion.
I mean, he said, I'm the best coach in college football.
Yeah, he also called, who was it? On Twitter, he called somebody a hoe. And I was going to...
That's not appropriate.
Wait, but he actually, I think he spelled it wrong. He spelled it H-O-E. And I think it should just be H-O.
Well, now there's a debate we need to have.
Let's get into
Hang on for that one. It depends on what kind you're talking about in my book. But maybe he was calling them a farmer's implement.
Yeah, could be.
All right, we'll get back, take your calls, talk some more. You're listening to Big Noon Sports.
Everybody.
Hey, this is Reagan, owner of R&R Cigars, the Cigar Mansion in downtown Tuscaloosa, located at 2703 6th Street across from the Home 2 Suites. Come down to R&R and see why we're the ultimate cigar and bourbon experience. With over 165 bourbons and 5 private barrels, our selection of bourbon is unmatched. We have the best cocktails around, and our cigar selection is legendary. Our lounge and service are world-class. Come and experience the luxury of the mansion and see why it's a world-renowned cigar and spirits destination.
From T-Town to the Plains, this is Alabama's most in-depth analysis on the SEC. This is Big Noon Sports.
Breaking it down and moving forward. Just received a text from Kerry Clark, who does our Saturday night show, post-game show, right here on Tide in Tuscaloosa, also on the Bear. And he said the Mississippi State game, which is in 2 weeks, minus a couple of days, will be an 8 o'clock tip-off, kickoff. I don't mind the 6:30s and even the 7s. Man, that's late.
So I misspoke earlier. It was Deion Sanders Jr. that went on to Twitter responding to Danny Cannell, who just asked the question, should you storm the field after a win in overtime as a 24-point favorite? And Deion Sanders Jr. wrote, "You are a pure hoe, H-O-E." And I was going to correct him.
No, I think you would have gotten another one, and he might have brought out a bigger gun. Let's go to the phones and talk to Warren. He's dialed in, interested to see what he has to say. Hey, Warren.
Hey, just caught the tail end of your show. I'm driving out to football practice. I think that Coach Saban is calling Melrose early as quarterback because he just feels that he has the better opportunity of winning the game coming up. And I don't think he believes Ty has enough in the tank that could pull out a game. And I think that's where it really boils down for him. I think he saw enough in the game, even though Ty Simpson gave us the win, but it wasn't enough. And I don't think he believes the Lions are going to get any better. That game was just simply horrible. And he knows that. He knows Ty Simpson is not going to be protected, and Melrose has the leg to get it done. So I think that's what you're looking at. And I don't think he'll have a problem pulling the trigger and putting Ty Simpson in if it looks any better. But I think that's why he called early, bottom line.
Do you expect to see a lot more RPO if they're literally going to finally make the stance that this is our starter?
I think they are. I think, and matter of fact, I think I posted on someone's Facebook. I said it's going to be RPO heavy. That's what we're going to see, because I think that's how it's going to be for the rest of the year. And I think we have two. I think the guy that came over from Notre Dame was not the OC. I think the quarterback, that was a huge mistake. I mean, that was a huge. That guy. There's a reason that guy came here. And I don't think he's going to get any better. He is what he is, right? And I think I'm not saying that Ty Simpson can't be salvaged. I think he's a good quarterback. I really do. I've seen him play twice in high school down in Knoxville. I like the kid. Matter of fact, I saw him play when he was a sophomore. Live game, 2 of them. I think he's a good kid. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't know what's going on in his head right now, but I think he'll be a good fit.
Has he developed as fast as you thought he would, or did you think it was going to be a work in progress?
I thought it'd be faster because he did in Knoxville. I thought it would be faster. I thought when he was selected, I was happy. I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "This is it, right?" I really felt like Ty Simpson was. I thought that him coming to Tuscaloosa, being with Nick Saban, being in that program, I said, this is it. I said, I think this is a great fit, especially who he was behind. I felt real confident. I was disappointed that he didn't take the reins during the spring games. I was disappointed. I just felt like that was his shot, to take the team. I said, I think this is the guy. I really felt that way, and I was really disappointed through the whole process. And I'm a Melrose fan. I have to be honest with you. I am. And I see things there. His reads are not crisp. He throws it away. He stares a guy down. He gives the ball up quickly. But his legs gets him out of trouble, and his legs saves the game. And man, we're just at the place right now. We've got to win games, and our defense is playing their stinking heart out. We've got to win games, else gosh, it's bowl bound. I mean, there's blood in the water, and the Sharks around. They can see it. I mean, we're just. Man, we got to win, and I think that's what Coach Saban is seeing.
It's also what Lane Kiffin is seeing.
Exactly. And everybody else. I mean, they see it. They know what it is. That's why Sark did what he did. He saw it. He knew exactly what time. He knew it. He read that on our defense. I mean, that man. So
as a coach, what was more disturbing to you, watching Alabama play against Texas or watching Alabama play against South Florida?
Oh God, South Florida killed me. I mean, I mean, we couldn't do anything right. Offensively, I just thought, okay, can we? I mean, could we? The play selections, could we? I mean, I don't know, guys. I just felt like
you sound like
we're Alabama.
Fan I know.
Well, you sound like everybody trying to explain
we're
what the heck's going on.
we're Alabama. I just, and then we hire an offensive coordinator that we felt like we're supposed to bring this. The thud back to the line where we're going to push you around and just drive it down your throat, right? We're supposed to bring the run back in the run game. We're going to bloody your nose, right? We didn't bloody anybody's nose. I mean, it was. that team was horrible. And we looked like we were a JV team trying to figure out how to run the damn ball. It was terrible. It was just, I mean, I had to turn it off. I turned it off.
Really?
I turned it off, and I don't turn out. My wife said, "What is wrong with you?" And I've got TVs in every room, in my den, outside. I said, I can't watch no more of this. I'd rather go look at my game film and get ready for next week. I'm not this. I can't do this no more. I said, I've just, and I knew going into this season, the critical piece for us, it's the adjustment with our OC. I knew the defense. I knew the defense would be better, but it's the adjustment with the OC. But the quarterbacks that we had, and man, I tell you, it was that piece right there. I just didn't feel in my gut, and just seeing some tapes, and you know, I have somebody that I know, you know, that's there in Tuscaloosa. It's a good friend of mine, and everything that he saw at practice that he talked to me about, he said, Warren, it's just, hey, it's what it is. He said, it's work. And you know, so I'm optimistic, but look, everybody knows it now, and that's the whole problem about playing a game. It's known now. And
the thing is, Alabama's gonna have to put up points on Saturday. They're gonna have to put up points, and I think Milroe gives you the best chance to do that.
Well, it probably gives you the best chance to keep it away from Ole Miss.
Yeah,
with lengthy.
I think you guys, I think that's where it is when you're talking to in Nick's mind, and you know, he only knows how his mind's work. We're always guessing at him, but that's it. Put the points up. Give us the best opportunity to win, so that we can bring doubt into everybody's mind. And don't get this twisted. I was talking to another guy. Look, this plays very much into moving into next year when we're talking about the 12-game playoffs. Mm-hmm. See, we don't want to jump into next year, but we have to think about what we're doing now for that, right? This is big. This year is critical. It is critical. How we're playing now for that, right?
I can see that.
And we have to be memorable this year.
You don't want to start out where they are now, and that's at number 13 in the nation. Great call, Warren. We got to get to break.
Thanks, guys.
Please make it a habit. Call us back again.
Yeah, excellent call.
And we'll take more calls on the other side of this break.
Go inside the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Gary Harris Show.
Hey, everybody, it's Gary Harris. Coming up Tuesday on the Gary Harris Show at 9 a.m. on Tide 100.9 FM. Drew DeArmond, the Rocket Man, will join us to talk some ball. Also, the Titans report with Kayla Anderson. And we'll review Nick Saban's Monday press conference comments.
Catch the Gary Harris Show Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
What a beautiful day today. Sunshine in full supply. The high 83. Clear and cool tonight. The low 59. And dry, pleasant weather continues tomorrow and Wednesday. The sky sunny both days. Highs between 83 and 86 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 82 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
From T-Town to the Plains, this is Alabama's most in-depth analysis on the SEC. This is Big Noon Sports.
I'll get to George's call in just 1 second, but I wanted to ask Justin something since he was in the post-game interview area. Is anybody saying anything about Justice Haynes? I mean, I know he got banged up after the second scrimmage, but he played some in the first game.
I don't believe anybody asked about him. And now that you said that, I wish I asked about him.
His father tweeted out that he's healthy.
Then what does that tell you?
He's playing some special teams.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even see him play special teams.
I think he is. I could be wrong on that. But going back to Milroe, I think that Nick Saban coming out and making the statement on Monday that Jalen is the starter, and he did use the words moving forward, I think this is firm and final. I think you rise or fall with Jalen Milroe. I think he is the guy for the rest of the year. There's not going to be any of this going back and forth and starting different quarterbacks. I think it's Milroe. I really do.
Let's go to Macon and talk to George. George, you're on Big Noon Sports.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for taking my call. Saturday was very, very disturbing. But one of the most disturbing things, as bad as the line did not block, I can't say they blocked because they didn't, especially the left side, was that we're still having trouble getting the correct number of players on the field and having to take time out. I don't understand that. And the next thing I don't understand, I remember when Lane Kiffin was our offensive coordinator. Nick Saban wanted him on the field so he could calm down the quarterback and see things the way that they saw it. How come Tommy Reese isn't on the field? Because I think he is also the quarterback coach. I don't understand why that does not apply to him also. And I think that he would make a great contribution instead of being up in the box with his dadgum head in his hands worrying about what he's doing. I mean, that is such a bad look, it's not even funny. And I don't understand why he's not on the field. Do y'all have any ideas on that?
Well, wasn't Sark in the box?
No, I don't think. Well, I sometimes he was and sometimes he wasn't. But I mean,
I think it's just coach's
preference. Don't you think that Tommy Reese could? Don't you think he could add something and calming the quarterback down if he's on the field?
Yeah. But, you could sign that off to somebody else's responsibility and maybe not as close as Reese. But
you certainly can see the field better from the
I've always thought
the
offensive coordinators should stay upstairs unless it was just really the way they wanted to do it and they were having a success doing it. That's, I think, more of an individual coach's preference than anything. I imagine if Saban wanted to direct up or down, he could and he would, and that's where they'd be. But I've always believed that DCs and OCs would probably rather watch where they can see from an aerial view.
Well, I just see that we got a young quarterback. Well, we had a young quarterback this past weekend. And Milroe, he's relatively young as far as starts. And I think that having him down there, seeing things the way that the quarterback sees it, can maybe explain to him, more of what's going on. But not having the right number of players on the field, that I don't get that at all. I mean, I play football, and dadgummit, when the coach tells you to do something, it's done. There's no, hesitation about it. And I'm hearing, I've heard all this noise about attitudes. Is that something that's a fact, or is that just blown out of proportion of the quarterback Milroe having a out last week, and that was one reason he didn't play? But in my thoughts, the reason that he played the other two guys to see what he had, like you have already stated. What's your thoughts?
I don't have any inside information on that, and so I can't really comment. I think that, again, my theory is that Nick Saban and the staff viewed the South Florida game as sort of the last opportunity before you get into SEC play to give both Buckner and Simpson a chance just to show what they have, what they can do behind center in a real game, getting meaningful snaps. And, it's pretty obvious the conclusion that Nick Saban has come to is, you know what, Jalen Milroe is the best. He gives us the best opportunity to win. And so I am surmising that they are going to sort of shift the focus of the offense to make it more tailored to Jalen's skill set. Get him out get him out of the pocket, roll him out, RPOs, bootlegs, and maybe sort of a little option. I mean, who knows? I just think you gotta, Matt, just go and make sure that you're not trying to put a square peg into a round hole, and that's what it felt like against Texas.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, you got to do what you're. You got to play. Your offense has got to be tailor made to what your quarterback can do. And I agree with you. It seems like we're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. But I think that we can still salvage the situation.
Yeah.
But I will say this: after 3 quarters of that game last week, it was nauseating. I mean, we didn't do anything good, but fortunately, we did have a fourth quarter offensive surge, which I thought was good. But another thing, Buckner, I thought he was horrible, and I don't understand why. I mean,
and that was puzzling.
It was nauseating. I mean.
It was tough to watch, and also it just felt so bad for the kid. I mean, he came in with a pretty good resume. And, boy, it all went to shambles after, 15? How many passes did he throw? It was 4 of 15 or something like that?
I think he was 3 of 8.
3 of 8. It's just, great call.
Okay, if that's the way Tommy Reese evaluates talent, we got a problem.
Oh, God. Line of the day.
That's a good point.
Line of the day. George, thanks, man.
See you later, guys.
We'll talk soon. You know who, and I realize it was against Samford, but Auburn instituted a lot more RPO. Now, I didn't think that was Peyton Thorne's forte.
He ran for over 100.
He combined rushing and passing had over 400 yards with his arm and with his legs. And he had 11 carries for 123 yards and 11.2 average and 2 touchdowns. I was listening to Hugh Freeze on the way over here, and he was quick to point out, we put in more RPO, and they were doing that against Samford to see if it had promise. It does. Thorne, meanwhile, was 24 of 32 for 282 yards. By the way, he rushed for 2 touchdowns. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. A touchdown and a couple of picks. He even went as far as to say when we put Ashford in there, he was running RPOs. So Auburn's moving in that direction, and it certainly would appear to me that Alabama is now.
Yeah.
Because that's the best offense for Jalen Milroe, right?
Yeah. Are you a little surprised? I mean, I think Nick Saban came out and stated that Milroe is a starter because he wants to sort of giving the reins to Jalen. But tactically, don't you think it would have made sense to wait until game time? Because it is there. Yeah. If it's Simpson or Milroe, 2 completely different styles of quarterback, 2 completely different styles of offense. So why not wait and make Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss prepare for both quarterbacks?
Or just start Simpson next week and just totally throw the water on him.
I agree. I think tactically that probably was the better option to wait. But I also think Nick is realizing that Jalen – and we've heard the rumors where he didn't respond well, didn't practice well to not being in this game. I think, like you said, it was just, you know what, Jalen? We're trusting you this week, and you have all week to get ready for this game because you're going to be the one to walk out on the field.
How much do you think he helped his cause by being the first person on the field to congratulate Ty Simpson?
It's big flashes time of Jalen and Tua.
Yes, it is. Exactly. That's immediately what I thought about.
I mean, and Nick Saban saying that he earned the right. Is it possible that he earned the right, not with his play on the field, but with his actions off the field during that game?
I don't think it hurt at all. In fact, I'll just go ahead and say it helped.
And maybe that is exactly perhaps what Nick Saban was looking for when he I would venture to say, told Jalen, hey, you're probably not going to play in this game. Be supportive on the sideline. Don't sulk. And Nick probably wanted to see his reaction, and he reacted the exact way you hoped he would. I don't know.
Who's putting this new package in? I mean, is Tommy Rees now being forced to put something in that he's never dealt with before? I guess they ran some RPO with Buckner at Notre Dame.
I just hope they change something, because the offense they ran against Texas with Milroe didn't look very suited to him, so they have to change something.
Yeah, but can you change it in 3 practices?
And also, do you think it's a really, really good thing? I think it is for the fans that Alabama has Kiffin up next. I do. I just said I like it when Alabama plays Kiffin.
I think you could make the argument that Ole Miss is the best team remaining on Alabama's regular season schedule.
Do you see what LSU did at Mississippi State?
Have you watched Ole Miss?
Yeah, I did. I would say LSU's better than Ole Miss.
They're close.
Yeah.
And Tennessee as well, and who knows what Auburn's going to look like in 6 weeks or whatever it is, 2 months.
Were you forgetting about them Gators? Whew, man.
Billy Napier.
Who put the gas in their tank? Wow. Gives us a lot of things to talk about next hour. Coming up immediately, though, Mark Heim from WNSP in Mobile and AL.com will be joining us. Lots to talk about, and you can join in at 205-342-9904. This is Big Noon Sports. It's halftime.
Laura Lee Thompson is known as the Bama Broker. She's a Tuscaloosa native, an Alabama graduate, and the only realtor in town with Wall Street experience. A skilled negotiator, Laura Lee knows how to buy low and sell high. And the Bama Broker isn't just going to show you houses. No, Laura Lee is going to educate you on the market, guide you to homes that fit your budget, and teach you how to sell your home for its maximum profit. Throughout the entire process, the Bama Broker will equip you with the tools you need to both buy a home and build financial wealth through home ownership. Trust me, the Bama Broker, who's as roll tide as houndstooth, will get you across the goal line. That's Laura Lee Thompson, the Bama Broker with Advantage Realty Group. You can reach her at 205-790-7229. Again, that's 205-790-7229. And you can also email her at lauralee@thebamabroker.com. That's lauralee@thebamabroker.com.
It's the Tide 100.9 30K Workday Payday. Woo! Win cash every weekday 8 to 5. Here's this hour's cash code.
446. Again, 446. The code is 446.
Enter that code now on the Tide 100.9 app. Click on the 30K Payday button and enter the code for a chance to win $30,000.
More Big Noon Sports coming up.
And it is Lars Anderson, Matt Coulter, Justin Jones, and now being joined on our hotline by Mark Heim from AL.com and from WNSP down in Mobile. Mark, how are you this morning? Actually, it's afternoon,
Good.
Matt.
Yeah, it all kind of blends together. Oh, well, I'm a little disappointed, man. Saban went ahead and named himself a starter. I thought I had a shot after Saturday's performances, but then I was going to throw my hat in the ring.
Well, go ahead and take the ball from there. I was surprised, I think as our team was here in Tuscaloosa, that he named a starter on Monday and probably didn't wait until it kind of leaked out like last week. Were you?
I was initially, and then I got to thinking about it. I really probably think this is his way of kind of countering Lane Kiffin's shenanigans about who's calling the defense over there. You know, he made the comments about Kevin Steele not making the calls, and I think that's just Lane and his misdirection he loves to run. He likes to create a little chaos Alabama week. I think that was probably I know it was calculated, and so I think you fight fire with fire, and you squelch one news story by creating another one.
Give us your big picture assessment of what you saw on Saturday.
This is not the Alabama team that we're accustomed to. No matter how you spin it, there are just too many glaring issues. I know quarterback's the biggest problem, but that offensive line is absolutely atrocious. And I know Nick Saban talked about exotic defenses and pressure packages and blitz packages that they didn't do a very good job picking up. But the truth of the matter is they just haven't performed to an Alabama standard, not just over the weekend, but all season long. So, I think that's number one. Number two is the penalty issue continues to rear its ugly head. And, this is something that Nick Saban has talked about for more than a season. It was all last season too. So why is it, and this is the $1 million or the $1 billion question, why is it that the greatest coach of all time can't wrap his head around this, can't fix this issue? I don't have the answer. But until those two things are figured out, it could be a very long season for Alabama.
There was even mentioned on ABC that Alabama didn't look to have a leader or have a lot of togetherness on the sideline. I don't know if you remember hearing that as it was reported live, but do you sense that as well, or was that just maybe a one or two play observation?
No, I think first I think the answer is both, really. I think that was an observation based on what they saw against South Florida, but I think this has been an issue over the last couple of years. As good as stars that they had on both the offensive and defensive side last year, I think if you go back 2 seasons, there was talk about guys freelancing and doing their own thing and not really playing within the system or the play or whatever. I think NIL is a real problem there. We've mentioned it a couple times on our show over the last however many months. Not that they can't get guys because of NIL, but NIL is a very divisive issue in the locker room. If the guy next to you is making X amount of dollars and you're not, that becomes an issue. So I think you take all of that and the transfer portal issues that continue to rear its ugly head, in which Alabama's certainly gotten its share of guys, but it's losing its backups early in their careers for playing time, right? And so those guys that you're trying to develop into leaders aren't there. And so guys that are behind those guys are coming up and having to fill that void. So I think it's a number of issues. But no, I don't think you have that prototypical guy that's kind of getting after everybody and pumping them up and telling them where to be. I don't think that guy's there yet. Now, one of the reasons I think that is because your quarterback situation. Typically, your quarterback is that guy, and if they don't know if they're playing from week to week, how can they lead a team that they're not even good enough to play for?
Mark, you have you've written about Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator, and what people are saying about him. The fact is, you go from Lane Kiffin to Sark to Bill O'Brien, right? Those guys have so much experience, Super Bowls, national championships, head coaches at big-time schools. And then you bring in a 33-year-old who is an offensive coordinator at Notre Dame. Is it your sense that Tommy might be in over his head a little bit, or can he get things turned around?
Yeah. I'm not overly optimistic at this point, and the reason I say that is because you look at the problems that they were having providing a clean pocket for whoever was playing quarterback, and they kept dropping the quarterback back into a pocket. It's like, try something new, move him out, try to offset some of those pressures with some screens or some draws or something, some quick wide receiver screens, anything. But I just didn't see a lot of imagination. It just seemed like we were just going to keep doing what we're going to do, and sooner or later we're going to hit them with a big one because we're just better than them. And I do believe that, because I think this was reported too, guys, you can help me out with this, but it was kind of reported that they didn't bring Rees to come in with Buckner to kind of share what they know and run their stuff. They were brought in to learn what Alabama runs and to run it. So from that perspective, we talk about a quarterback with very little experience with this offense. It sounds like the offensive coordinator has just as probably less experience at this point than the guy taking the snap.
Well, if they've asked them to run a different offense, then that might shed a little light on how confused and bright-eyed Buckner looked, because that was troubling. So,
yeah, he was. I mean, guys, I'm sure he's a nice kid. I'm sure he works hard, but that was awful. And I blame Nick Saban for the kind of the fan reaction and the cry for a backup quarterback, because all off season long, you've been talking about how it's a really competitive competition, and clearly it wasn't, right? If yesterday or Saturday was any indication, Tyler Buckner has no business being out on that field. I mean, if you need somebody to drop back, try to throw the ball and let it get stuck in your hand, throw it in the dirt, that's why I'm applying for that. I can do that, right? So I do think and it's hard to believe that the moment was too big, like he was nervous. I mean, this is the kid that played at Notre Dame, right? This is why you bring him in. And so I think with Ty Simpson, I think most people agree that given some time, he probably has like the best long ball. Like he could probably develop into a good passer, but that's something. Time is not a luxury that Alabama has right now. You need to go out and you need to win now. So based on the lack of an offensive line execution and your quarterback having to run for his life, it just makes sense that Jalen Milroe is your guy. The problem is Milroe's skill set doesn't fit the skill set required to run that offense. So it's a kind of a square peg round hole issue right now, I think, with Alabama's offense. All the way around.
Gee, I think that's the third time that phrase has been mentioned on this show.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to see the video that went a little bit viral over social media? And it's simply Nick Saban and a couple of the players walking off the field, and Saban looks a little disheveled, and the body language of everyone at Alabama just it reeks of defeat, and it's a powerful image. It really is, and of course it reinforces the death of the dynasty talk. Where are we with all this? Are you still clinging to a little bit of hope that Alabama can turn this thing around, or is that video really going to be sort of an enduring image of the fall of the empire, so to speak? Here,
yeah, I think that video spoke volumes to the frustration, the lack of answers that Nick Saban has. I think he's tried, he did the whole, there's a time to pat guys on the butt, and a time to kick them in the butt. You need to know when. I think at this point, after losses, he admitted, right after losses, he tries to coddle the guys. He's softer, I think was the word he used. Well, I think at this point, we'd rather see Nick Saban just kind of rip into some guys, like really get after them, light a fire under them. But yeah, and I think it's an important distinction. I think you can still win and win at a high clip and still not be dynastic, right? I mean, the days of Alabama going out there and dominating top 10 opponents by double digits is over. I think that much is clear. They can still win those games and win 8, 9, 10, or 10, 11 games and get to a conference championship and win it and still not be a dynasty. But it's not that they're falling off as much as everybody's catching up. And he just doesn't have answers right now.
I read that 37 of the Bulls roster transfer. I mean, you can make a whole lot of hay through the transfer portal.
Well, it seems like half of the starters for TCU transferred from Alabama. I mean, you just look at the depth. Alabama's taking a huge hit depth-wise when it comes to the transfer portal.
Is Alabama using it right?
Well, they got Jamison Williams. I will put that to you, Mark. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a positive and a negative, right? Yeah, clearly they are. You look at Jahmyr Gibbs, you look at all the guys that came in and were immediate impact. So where it's hurting them is something they can't control. Like where he built his dynasty was on consistency and making people understand that it was going to be their turn. They have to wait their turn though, and to go through all that and to earn that spot. And now with the transfer portal the way it is, guys aren't waiting around. They're greener pastures. So I don't know. You can't combat that. You can't, and you really can't. I mean, you can't really get angry at a kid for leaving for playing time this day and age. So I don't know how to combat it. I don't think they're losing to your point, they're still recruiting at a very high clip, as well as anybody in the country. How do you keep those guys in the system, in the program, without playing them and keeping them happy is the biggest challenge of Nick Saban's career.
Yeah, and he's not very fond of it. He's made that very.
No.
He's been very honest about that. Hey, you wrote a piece today on AL.com about Deion and his 60 Minutes appearance. Can you hang on through a break and talk to us about that, or have you got things to do?
For you guys, absolutely, man. Let's do it.
Awesome. What a guy. Mark Heim continues on Big Noon Sports.
Reagan, owner of R&R Cigars, the Cigar Mansion in downtown Tuscaloosa, located at 2703 6th Street across from the Home 2 Suites. Come down to R&R and see why we're the ultimate cigar and bourbon experience. With over 165 bourbons and 5 private barrels, our selection of bourbon is unmatched. We have the best cocktails around and our cigar selection is legendary. Our lounge and service are world class. Come and experience the luxury of the mansion and see why it's a world-renowned cigar and spirits destination.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's move over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the roadside. And if you can't safely move over, please slow down.
Visit DriveSafeAlabama.org, brought to you by the Alabama Department of Transportation, Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
What a beautiful day today. Sunshine in full supply. The high 83. Clear and cool tonight. The low 59. And dry, pleasant weather continues tomorrow and Wednesday. The sky sunny both days. Highs between 83 and 86 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 83 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
This is the Big Noon Sports Network.
Matt, Lars, Justin, and Mark Heim from AL.com and WNSP in Mobile. Mark, I read with great interest your story about Deion Sanders' appearance last night on 60 Minutes. He is still a very brash young man. He's not young anymore, Matt. But he said, who's the best coach? He said, find me a mirror. But then he went into a great comment about Nick Saban. Just kind of give us your take on what you saw from Deion last night on 60 Minutes.
Yeah, I think you're always going to get that kind of confident, cocky Deion Sanders. But every once in a while, he'll get real introspective on you. And I think if he was being honest, he would tell you that he sees Nick Saban as that guy. He talked about how he loves and adores and respects him. And like every time Nick Saban talks, he kind of eats it all up and tries to act like a sponge because he's always going to say something that is valuable to him in his coaching career. Look, Deion is still very, new to this whole coaching thing. He hasn't done it for that long. He's had a lot of success. There's no doubt he knows football. So I think he understands the opportunity, even if it's just hanging out on the set of Affleck with Nick Saban, that there is a ton that he can learn from Nick Saban. So he admires the guy, and I think, if you hit him with some truth serum, he'd tell you that Nick Saban was the greatest coach of all time.
Do you think Deion Sanders could ever be named the head coach at Alabama?
Ooh, that's a good question. Could he ever be named? Me repeating the question is stalling for a legitimate answer.
I mean, it's like it's fascinating what he's doing at Colorado. He's not necessarily my cup of tea, but it's like one with the transfer portal, but also celebrity as coach, and a guy who is he's proven it in the NFL, right? But arguably one of the greatest corners, if not the greatest of all time, just a pure cover guy. And his son clearly is a special quarterback. Really? He is really, really good. And I'm just wondering, like, if is this possible that it's like he's the first of more to come?
Yeah. My first reaction is there's no way the Alabama contingency powers that be would allow this. But then, I mean, that's kind of the only way they got Nick Saban, right? He had to have complete autonomy. He had to take over and manage every aspect of that program. So from that perspective, it's possible. It is. It certainly is. And there's not a bigger name in college football right now. If Nick Saban were to retire tomorrow, that could fill that void, and there would be that much excitement. Now, I also believe, to your point, that for every fan that's excited about that hire, there'll be one in the state of Alabama complaining about it for sure. But he certainly can recruit, and he's won everywhere he's been, although it hadn't been a whole lot of places. I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice at this point not to at least consider it. How about that?
I just don't think he's a fit culturally. But then, who's to know what's the fit? What the fit is in 5 years?
I think he's a fit culturally, like Colorado.
Did you see them paying the stands?
Pay what?
The television. I mean, you're talking about a bunch of rich snow skiers.
Yes.
Does Deion fit in there?
No,
not really.
That's what I meant. Sorry. Yeah, I didn't.
No, I knew exactly what you're talking about, but you do have to kind of walk a tightrope here when you're talking about. I mean, there was so many Caucasians in the stands. It was unbelievable. Am I going to get in trouble for that? I mean, it's an observation. I mean, nobody wants to touch that except Matt. But by the way, Colorado State didn't have any. They had mostly Caucasians too. So, but his brash and his it's, what it fits. It fits today's culture. The students love this stuff, don't they?
They do, and I think it's one of those situations. And this might be to your point about maybe it not being a good fit. He is coaching like he needs headlines, like he needs attention on his program. When you get to a school like Alabama, you don't need that. You don't need to make strides to get people to talk about your program. You're already there. So when he was in the SWAC, he was doing the same thing. He was doing things that he to get publicity for his program. He's not going to need that when he gets to Alabama. Will he continue that? And I guess the bigger issue is, would an administration or an athletic program, to y'all's earlier point about transfer portal, do you really want to get into the business of not honoring college scholarships as blatantly as they're disregarding it in Colorado? I know it's a trend. People are winning with it. It's a dangerous precedent. I'm with you on that. I don't like the idea of after a year everybody just jumping ship because they've been tossed out. But look, Nick Saban, like every other coach, has processed guys out in the past, just not in such a high volume. It's the college game has changed, and you either get on board or you get out. So, I mean, look at what's happening with Dabo right now. Dabo won't take transfers, right? And he's not messing with that portal, and it's really hurting him right now. So it's a great question. There would be some hurdles for sure.
Going back to Alabama, what would you, and this is another big picture question, what are the causes of the issues that are transpiring? Is it the turnover in the assistant coaches? Is it transfer portal? Is it NIL? Is it just the inevitability that nothing can be sustained at such a high level, or is it sort of a combination of all those factors and probably some that I'm missing?
Yeah, I always point to the transfer portal and NIL as big issues. I think there is some degree of it can't last forever. I don't know if it's the turnover of assistant coaches. He's had high turnover of assistant coaches for years. They've been very fortunate. There was a time not that long ago, I think we've talked about it on your show in the past, where, they didn't have high-profile quarterbacks going to the NFL. Like, it'd been a long time since the guy who graduated or played at Alabama went to the NFL. Now they've had this consecutive string of guys, of high-caliber guys, and they just don't have that right now. But, yeah, the portal hurts the depth, right, we talked about. I think the NIL hurts everybody buying in. And I think Saban just is having a difficult time trying to get these guys to focus and keep their eye on what he calls the process. One play at a time, one series at a time. Don't worry about the scoreboard. Do your job, and everything will work out for the best. when you got these other teams out there that are wheeling and dealing and saying, look at me. It's very difficult to kind of play that team-oriented game, even when you have all these trophies to show for it.
I think, the fans in this state have become very, very spoiled by the last 4 quarterbacks. And I think nationally the question puzzles fans more because they're going, look, Hurts, Tua, Mac, Bryce. How can they not have another one of those guys? Well, the fact of the matter is they had 5-star and Ty Simpson, and these other guys, one quarterback at Notre Dame, and the other had the most experience, and is as an athlete, he's just dynamic. It is a little puzzling, though, Mark, that they misfired on, well, maybe not 3, but a couple here for sure.
Well, maybe the misfire, and I don't know, but maybe the misfire isn't on the quarterbacks as much as it is on the idea of going back to a pro style, knowing that you have a guy like Jalen Milroe that's ready and capable of running the more RPO type stuff. Maybe it's just, and I'm just speculating, maybe it's just poor timing on the decision to go back to what you wanted to go, or maybe he made that call too early and they were just too far down that road to change course. And so then you bring in Reese to run your pro style offense, and you got this quarterback that just, he can't make the throws, he can't make the progressions, but he can run like the wind and can make throws, when he's impromptu. It sounds like a perfect guy to run a Jalen Hurts type offense, but maybe we've just gone too far down the road.
What are your expectations when number 15 Ole Miss rolls into Tuscaloosa for the 2:30 kick, which will be on CBS? I think this is a really difficult matchup for Alabama because of the Rebels' offense being so explosive.
Yeah. So if there's one good thing that came out of the game against South Florida, check notes for a positive column, it's probably it's the defense played well. The defense played lights out. They created a little anarchy there. So I do think the defense is playing better, and I think the defense did okay even against Texas. We talked about it. So what I learned about and I've seen Ole Miss a couple times, that Ole Miss Tulane game was actually a lot closer than the score indicated. They got they got a turnover too late when Tulane was pressing and needed to score. But Tulane took Ole Miss to the wire without their starting quarterback. So as good as Ole Miss's offense is, I'm not sure how great their defense is. Right? I think it's the same old lane from that perspective. So if you can get just enough stops, and if you can get, I think, Jalen Milroe comfortable doing what he's doing, you've made the decision, you've let everybody know early so the guys can kind of rally around him. I think they'll come out a little bit more focused. That doesn't mean they're still not going to make dumb mistakes and pre-snap penalties and losing touchdowns due to penalties. I won't believe they're capable of fixing those problems until they actually do it at this point. But I do think this will be a competitive game. I do think Alabama will ultimately win this game.
Mark, will you take a call from Athens, Georgia?
I can give it a shot.
We can give it a shot?
Sure.
All right, let's see. Greg from Athens.
Sorry, guys. That's for Ryan.
Oh, I thought I misread. Man, they call in early. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. All right, Mark. Well, I appreciate your time. I know Lars does as well. We've kept you a little bit longer than usual, but well worth it. And everybody needs to listen when they're in the Mobile area, or listen on your app to WNSP, Mark's in the mornings, and then as well as read him on AL.com. Thank you, Mark.
Hey, man, enjoyed it. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a good week.
All right,
you too, Mark. Thanks.
Right. Mark Heim, he'll be on with us again next week. Always has an interesting perspective on things going on in the world of sports, and particularly here in the state of Alabama. When we get back, Lars, this is one of the strangest high school football stories I've read in many years, and it involved the band. It's a crazy story. I'll share it with you on the other side of this break. Right here on Big Noon Sports.
Going inside the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Gary Harris Show.
Hey, everybody, it's Gary Harris coming up Tuesday on the Gary Harris Show at 9 a.m. on Tide 100.9 FM. Drew DeArmond, the Rocket Man, will join us to talk some ball. Also, the Titans report with Kayla Anderson, and we'll review Nick Saban's Monday press conference comments.
Catch the Gary Harris Show Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
Laura Lee Thompson is known as the Bama Broker. She's a Tuscaloosa native, an Alabama graduate, and the only realtor in town with Wall Street experience. A skilled negotiator, Laura Lee knows how to buy low and sell high. And the Bama Broker isn't just going to show you houses. No, Laura Lee is going to educate you on the market, guide you to homes that fit your budget, and teach you how to sell your home for its maximum profit. Throughout the entire process, the Bama Broker will equip you with the tools you need to both buy a home and build financial wealth through home ownership. Trust me, the Bama Broker, who's as roll tide as houndstooth, will get you across the goal line. That's Laura Lee Thompson, the Bama Broker with Advantage Realty Group. You can reach her at 205-790-7229. Again, that's 205-790-7229. And you can also email her at lauralee@thebamabroker.com. That's Laura Lee at thebamabroker.com.
Covering SEC sports like kudzu on the roadside. This is Big Noon Sports.
Let's take a break away from Alabama college football here for just a second, because when I read this Saturday, I went, nah, this is. But it comes from reports from AL.com and from those that were on the scene. Minor High School was playing Jackson Olin at Jackson Olin Friday night. Actually, this was Thursday night. Let's get the facts right. After the game, police were trying to clear the stadium, but both bands stayed and kept playing. Birmingham Police Department went over to the Jackson Olin, the host team, and asked their bands to stop playing. They complied. Then they went over to the minor high school, and the minor high school band director refused. This remind you of the Don McLean American Pie lyrics. But, he kept ignoring requests. And meanwhile, the director kept telling the band to keep playing. Officers decided to arrest the director because of a physical altercation that occurred between the director and the local police. He refused to put his hands behind his back. Then he pushed the police. They used the taser. That's the end of the investigation as far as we know. I'm sure there'll be some follow-up here. But, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You're on somebody else's field. You refuse to yield. I don't know. I don't know if it's a story worth going into comment.
I mean, his name is Johnny Mims, and he just didn't comply with what the police were asking him to do, and then he turned violent, and it's not going to end well for anybody when you do that.
Don't push the police.
No.
You know? I guess, doesn't say exactly here whether or not charges will be filed, but it seems like they certainly would have been.
Oh, he's been charged with disorderly conduct, harassment, and resisting arrest.
Well, you got a follow-up story over there. Good.
For encouraging his band of, remember, they're all teenagers, to continue playing long after the game had ended.
And he'd been asked several times. The other band complied.
The police were just trying to clear out the stadium, and the home team obliged. Right? They left. The home band left when the cops asked them to stop playing. But Mims allegedly told his students, "Keep on jamming, get it going."
And they
repeatedly asked him to stop so the students and the ticket holders could leave the stadium, but he just ignored them. And then because he was ignoring them, the decision was made to place him into custody. And at that point, a physical altercation ensued. And
I was talking to Karen about this. What's going through that guy's mind? I mean, seriously.
I don't know. Not a lot of logical thinking.
I'm going to go to that negative story to a really, really positive one.
Nebraska won.
Volleyball?
Hey, we won volleyball. Volleyball Anderson is very happy, but Huskers beat Northern Illinois.
And that's, if people think that's a pushover, it's not usually.
It's not.
The Huskies, right? They've been known. Did they not beat Alabama many, many years ago? Or Auburn? Or somebody like that?
Somebody, yeah. And it was a kid from Kearney, Nebraska, who started for Nebraska and started for the Huskers. And it was the first time that a kid from the state of Nebraska had started a game since, I believe, 1999, when the kid named Monte Cristo.
I remember him.
Remember Monte
who
Cristo?
Couldn't remember that name.
NIU beat Alabama in 2003, 19-16.
That's what I thought.
So take that.
So, all right. But I did. Alabama's volleyball team won that particular day. So
as I was watching the game, the Alabama game, I just put out on social, I can't believe what is happening, but Alabama is playing like Nebraska. And that was actually taken quite well by Alabama fans, because it's true. No. And Nebraska fans were actually sympathizing with us folk down here in the great state of Alabama.
I think the biggest story that has been pushed to under the fold because of Alabama and because of all the things going on nationally in football is the fact that South Alabama, USA, the Jaguars, went to Oklahoma State and won. They didn't just win. They wore the Cowboys out. The final score was 33-7.
Are they the best team in the state of Alabama?
Well, right now.
UAB? Oof. Trent Dilfer.
UAB, man, that's not a good start at 1-2. And it's not just the losses, it's the way they lost.
They're getting pushed around.
It was 41-0 before. They had a major lightning delay. Of course, they did at Alabama. Hey, what did the fans do at Raymond James? Were they asked to leave too?
They weren't asked to leave. They were just told, on the Jumbotron, go to the safety part. But these USF fans, you wouldn't, they're used to it. They took their shirts off. They were playing in the puddles, jumping and chanting the whole time. I mean, they thought they had a chance, and they did have a chance at that point in the game. But
did the weather impact Tyler Buchner, you think?
I don't think so. It was a very nice day. It was hot to start the game, and he came out the gate. I think it was one of those first passes where it was on an out route, and it was just way behind the receiver.
Yeah,
and I think we knew what we were in for after that.
Oh, well, did you jump in puddles too? Is that what did you do as an Alabama fan at Tampa?
I thought about going out onto the field pregame, but you would have thought I jumped in a puddle with how much I was sweating walking around the stadium.
I think the hottest I've ever been was in Tampa in the summer, and it was 100 degrees, and the humidity was 100 degrees, and I don't know. I was down there with the Stallions, and they were playing the Tampa Bandits, coached by Steve Spurrier. I've never seen players so worn out in all my life when I got into the dressing room afterwards. They all said, particularly Tom Banks, who one of my heroes, he said, he's going to have to give me a minute.
I covered a training camp. I was there sort of embedded with the Buccaneers just 2 years ago, and it was so hot. It made Alabama seem cool in August.
It did. I said, okay, I found a place.
I mean, guys, I was there on Saturday sweating to death, and then it's 60 degrees this morning here in Alabama. I was like, do I need to wear a sweatshirt going to work?
Did you drive down?
I did. I drove 10 hours. I've done it a couple times, but I told Matt when he walked in, I'm not ever doing that again. I'll fly.
Did you? Did you go over to Atlanta and then go south?
No, I went through Montgomery.
Oh, you went that
down
way.
to I-10.
Yep.
I-75.
Yeah, you kind of cut through the corner of the dog leg there, if you will. And speaking of which, did want to ask him one more question, but he's tending with a phone call right now. But we can move along. How about them Gators?
They look good. They look good. I was really surprised by that.
Me too.
I did not see that coming. I thought that that Tennessee was going to go into the swamp and handle their business, and it was going to be the beginning of the end for Billy Napier, and couldn't have been more surprised. Happy for Napier.
I am too. He's a likable guy, and he has not gotten off to a great start.
No.
He got it kicked around at Utah. And he mentioned that in his postgame. He said, we got it handed to us at Utah, but we came back and we played pretty well. But they started a quarterback named Mertz. Anybody familiar with this guy? He only threw for 166 yards. They only rushed for 130-something. I mean, they had both teams had right around 300 yards total offense. But, I did note this, too. Tennessee, while vastly improving over the years, has lost 4 of their last 5 road games. I believe I read that correctly. So, your OU quarterback's not playing well on the road.
No, but one player who did really well at home in Columbia, Missouri.
Oh,
what about that kicker?
We don't talk kicker.
Yeah. Harrison Mevis from 61 hits the game winner as time expires. Longest field goal in SEC history. That is it. And the thing is, the Missouri coaching staff inexplicably lost track of time on the sideline and had to take a delay a game before the game-winning kick. So what was 56? They pushed it back to 61, and this kid's like, I don't care, and he just drilled it. What a kick!
Do you remember this guy last year at Auburn?
I do not.
We'll talk about that on the other side of this break because it makes the story even more unbelievable. You're listening to Big Noon Sports.
On the next Inside the Locker Room with Coach Wimp Sanderson and Barry Sanderson.
Tune in Tuesday. We'll have Kevin Skarbinski at 7:30. We'll break down the Alabama game at South Florida. We'll look forward to the Ole Miss game with Kevin. Also, 8:15, the best in the business, Jack Crow, will join us.
Inside the Locker Room, weekdays 7 to 9 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
What a beautiful day today. Sunshine in full supply. The high 83. Clear and cool tonight. The low 59. And dry, pleasant weather continues tomorrow and Wednesday. The sky sunny both days. Highs between 83 and 86 degrees. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 83 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best sports talk in Alabama. This is Big Noon Sports.
Last year, Missouri and Auburn were all tied at 14. Missouri stops the clock with 3 seconds left to allow Harrison Mevis onto the field to kick what, here I'm looking at the screens like a field. It's like an extra point.
26-yarder.
Yeah, he missed it. And, of course, Auburn went on to win that game, and Missouri gave it back to them. Missouri should have won this game. I think everybody agreed, even Auburn did. But this same guy, as a tie game 27-27, it's Missouri and, help me.
Playing Kansas State.
Kansas State.
15th ranked?
Or 15th, 18th, something like that. Tie game, and you just say it was a 56-yarder. They forgot to call timeout or something and moved it back to 61. And here's this Mevis guy that gets up there. He's called the thicker kicker. If you've seen the video, you know why. And he hauls off and nails a 61-yarder. I mean, it split the uprights and had room to spare. and it gave Missouri a huge win. And aren't the Tigers now 3-0?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
They are 3-0.
They're the best
and
team in the SEC right now.
He hit it with there was 3 seconds left on the clock, and he boomed it. I mean, just a terrific kick. You got to feel good for him. A little bit of redemption from last year. He's known as one of the better kickers in the country. 2-time finalist for the Lou Groza Award for the best kicker in the country. And he's potentially an NFL kicker. Certainly when you come through in the clutch like this, 61-yarder, longest field goal in SEC history at the buzzer to beat a Kansas State game. And again, you got to realize Missouri, Kansas State, it's a big rivalry in the Midwest. It's a big thing because those two schools for many years were in the Big 8 together, and then the Big 12, and so they've been getting after each other for a long time. So really cool story, and a really odd story, Matt, is the curious case of the missing F-35 stealth fighter in South Carolina. Justin, do you want to give a brief sketch here of the overview of what is going on with this stealth fighter, which is one of the most expensive aircrafts in the in the fleet? I believe it comes at about a price tag of $20-30 million.
It's definitely out of my price range, Lars. I won't be getting one anytime soon. But yeah, I guess they were flying them around. I can't think of the name of the Air Force Base that's up there in South Carolina, but the pilot had ejected from the plane. I guess there was an error and that caused him to, these incredible seats and technology, launch him out, parachute, land, and he's fine. But the plane is in autopilot. So the plane is, I guess, flying around.
They're searching high and low, and they can't find it. This rogue jet.
But the thing with it, too, is the F-35 is one of the newest planes that the American military has, and it is the premier fighter jet for stealth technology.
It's undetectable.
It's undetectable. They can't scan it. They can't find it. Nothing.
Yeah, because the emergency locator switched off for some reason, and it reminded me, Matt, every time a NASCAR engine would blow up, it was always the $2 part, right?
Yeah. It's happening wheels now.
Yeah. So that's what's going on, perhaps, with the F-35B Lightning II jet. And, this has actually happened before, I guess. At the end of the Cold War, there was a Soviet pilot. He witnessed his jet fly off without him after he ejected from it, and it continued to fly for 500 miles before it eventually was shot down. But it's just they're looking north of the base in Charleston, South Carolina. And they just they don't have the coordinates of it
because they can't get them.
Officials, they haven't confirmed or denied if it's crashed, but NBC is reporting that again that the jet was left in autopilot mode when the pilot ejected from the aircraft, leaving open the possibility that it could still be airborne, and it's flying in what they call a zombie state after the pilot ejected, and it is you got to hope that this doesn't end badly with the jet going into a populated area.
The Marine version of this jet topped $160 million. 160. Oh wow! It's kind of funny, but it's really more scary.
So the jet's transponder. Again, this is the equivalent of the $2 part in a stock car engine. Was not working, quote, for some reason that we haven't yet determined, according to an authority, a military authority who told the Washington Post that.
I'm starting to wonder if all of these UFO sightings are maybe just jets that we've let fly around by themselves and, causing some hysteria. Hopefully they find it, or it finds the ground in a safe place, and nothing bad happens from it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I was wrong about the $20 million. Yeah, so a single F-35B jet, it costs about $90 million, and it took 60 years to develop this thing. They've been working on it for 60 years, and just the price that went into the research and development was more than $1 trillion. It's the costliest weapons program in U.S. history, and
now it's wandering around the skies over South Carolina like a lost puppy.
They think.
We need to go into the NIL portal and get this thing on the team. That's what we need. We need an F-35
Everybody who can hear our voices, look skyward and see if you see anything. I mean, I wonder what the
Alabama,
I wonder what the altitude is.
Got a jet with no pilot.
Hey, there you go. Good way to wrap it back.
It's that's crazy and also scary. And unfortunately, the pilot ejected, got out safely. But my immediate thought there is, isn't a jet like that supposed to have tandem? Most of them, I mean, if you believe Top Gun.
I think I saw they were flying in formation.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, why do
Shouldn't
they
they have
eject
just
out
kept
of it?
up with them?
I guess, yeah. I guess. It's
This
all
is
sorts of
strange.
confusing.
Yeah, it's just the Pentagon is not releasing a lot of information right now. So, just hopefully this has an outcome that isn't tragic.
Well, yeah, if you could get it out over the Atlantic, you could take it down. But golly,
I feel like we practiced for this with a certain weather balloon a couple months back.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the same kind of thing. To change gears here, Lars, your Bengals are having a rough time this week.
Well, Joe Burrow's hurt.
There's a show.
Joe Burrow's hurt, and he threw an interception that really changed the whole dynamic of the game. It was a 14-point swing, threw it at the goal line. Next play, Lamar Jackson hits a deep shot, and the Ravens go on to beat the Bengals 27-24. And now Cincinnati's 0-2 for the second straight year. Last year they were able to bounce back and get to the AFC Championship game. But Joe Burrow could barely walk off that field because he re-aggravated a calf injury, a calf muscle injury. And that is a type of injury that lingers. And such a big part of Joe Burrow's game is his athleticism in the pocket and his way to sort of buy time and make plays off script. And he just can't do that right now. And so he's the Bengals are really struggling, and they're in trouble. They host the Rams, which is another team that is not very good right now. Monday Night Football. So next Monday night. But yeah, the Bengals, not a great start to the season.
My Packers lost at Atlanta by a single digit yesterday.
Did you see that failed quarterback sneak?
No.
Oh my gosh. Justin, did you see the Jordan Love's quarterback sneak?
I didn't.
Where
No.
the ball wasn't snapped and he was expecting it to be snapped and he ended up falling forward. You got to look at it. It was very comical. That was a big loss for the Packers. They had that game pretty much salted away.
And the Falcons are now 2-0.
Falcons are looking good. The Cowboys look really good. Their defense is just amazing. But again, they're going against Zach Wilson.
Did he throw 3 picks?
3, 4, 5, who knows? I mean, it's just, I think we have enough evidence to let us know that he's not an NFL quarterback. That was not a good draft pick. That was based on, I swear, that was based on his pro day. Remember that one incredible throw that he made?
He was hyped up.
The one throw that went 65 yards against his body, and he hits the guy who is running against air in stride.
No defensive pressure line or anything in front of him.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to John Mechie, too. Finally back in the game. He's
that's
playing
awesome.
his first game for the Texans. He only had one reception, but it was just good to see.
It's a great story. It's a great story. Derrick Henry played good. And circling back to the events this weekend for Alabama, Marlon Humphrey, who I think is the best corner in the league in the NFL right now, former Alabama player. He tweeted out, and he didn't play on Sunday because he's hurt. He tweeted out essentially that the dynasty's over at Alabama. And Marlon is not someone who is prone to overstatement. Like he gives pretty clear-eyed analysis, and the fact that you have like some former players, big time players, saying that it's over here is troubling. But based on what we saw on Saturday, hard to disagree with them.
Yeah, it is. I have more than a small problem, though, with people just coming out. I mean, of course, the social media birds are going to go crazy on this, but I think it's a little early to be tossing in the towel. Be very, very honest with you.
They can still win the national championship. Went out.
That's the way I want the public to think. All right. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it. Again, Monroe starts against Ole Miss.